The next relevant factor that is going to impact how you personalize your diet is your lifestyle. Ideally, you want your diet to be personalized to fit your daily routine. Many people do it the other way around. They try to adjust their daily routine to fit their new diet. And this can be a big tripping point for a lot of people unless your day-to-day routine is completely under your control. However, for most people, this isn't the case. If you have kids, your schedule and eating habits are going to be highly influenced by what your kids need in order to function. If you work at a bakery, coffee shop, or restaurant, your food choices are likely to be impacted by the food that surrounds you throughout the day. If you are a 9-to-5 office worker, it's going to be very tricky to dodge coffee breaks and free donuts in the morning. And anyone working the night shift is going to be challenged by a disrupted circadian rhythm, which has been shown to dysregulate the hormones that are responsible for balancing blood sugar. For many of us, our day-to-day life is going to be heavily influenced by schedules, obligations, free donuts and coffee, and many other factors that require us to adapt to these external obstacles. For this reason, it's necessary for everyone to personalize their diet based on their unique daily routine. For example, let's assume that you work in an office space. Let's take a moment to think about how you can integrate better health practices based on this specific daily rhythm. In other words, how can you make the right adjustments to accommodate your health goals? Well, the first thing you can do is to prepare your meals for the upcoming week on Sunday evenings and pack your meals into glass Tupperware containers so that you have a healthy, filling lunch that is ready to go to work with you every morning. And since you know that you are going to be surrounded by donuts in your office space, you can use the blood sugar balancing hacks that you learned in weeks 2 and 3 of this program to help you moderate your blood sugar response to sweet treats. So instead of trying to white knuckle it through the day without eating anything sweet, another option would be to grab that donut in the morning and save it until after lunch. About 15 minutes before lunch, remember to drink a glass of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Then fill up on a green salad and a home-prepared meal that contains greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And then have your donut as a dessert about 15 minutes after you finish your meal. After that, make sure you still have time to go for a quick 10 to 15 minute walk before you head back to work. Grab some coworkers to go with you and make it a daily ritual. By including all of these hacks, you don't necessarily have to avoid the donut. You simply add in a few extra tricks to make sure your body metabolizes it in a smart way. Beyond your day-to-day routines, what you do in your free time also makes a huge difference in your approach to diet. Are you a homebody, a traveler? Do you like to spend time on a hobby after work or throughout your day? Do you enjoy meeting up with friends for happy hour? Whatever your leisure activities are, you'll have to think about how your ideal diet and health patterns fit into that particular lifestyle. Lifestyle habits make a big difference in both quality of life and how long we live. For that reason, it is useful to review your lifestyle habits and consider whether they are promoting your health and well-being or keeping you stuck in a place that you don't really want to be. Speaking of longevity, the life expectancy of an American born today averages about 78.2 years. But this year, over 70,000 Americans have reached their 100th birthday. So now we have to ask the question, what are they doing that the average American isn't? In order to understand that, we have to look a little closer at their lifestyle habits. And since we're talking about how your lifestyle affects the way you personalize your diet, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you about some fascinating health-conscious communities all around the world. The people in these communities have managed to optimize their health and found ways to live long and prosper. These communities exist in regions of the world known as blue zones. Blue zones are areas that contain populations with the highest concentration of centenarians, and centenarians are people who live to be 100 years of age or older. If you'll take a look at the picture at the top right-hand part of the screen, you'll see some of the most well-recognized blue zones on Earth, including Loma Linda, California, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. Now you may be wondering what it is about these areas that distinguishes them as hot spots for healthy and long-lived individuals. Well, it turns out that people who are concentrated in these regions tend to adopt the diet and lifestyle patterns of those already living in the community. And this goes back to the principle that you tend to become like the 5 people that you hang around the most. So this is why you really want to make it a priority to get you some healthy friends. These people are simply living in very natural ways close to the earth and with a sense of community, connectedness, and purpose. So you see, it's not just focus on a specific dietary practice that makes them so healthy. Instead, these communities tend to have a more holistic approach to health, which means integrating all parts of life, including their spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Now, if you shift your attention to the picture on the left, we'll go through these lifestyle practices one at a time in order to better understand what kind of belief structure is at the foundation of a long and healthy life. Here are some of the basic principles they follow, starting at the 9 o'clock position of the circle and moving clockwise. Number 1, putting loved ones first. Now, this doesn't mean prioritizing other people's well-being above your own. That would be the opposite of healthy, well-defined boundaries. Self-respect requires that we take care of our own needs first, but part of taking care of ourselves is to recognize and value the connections that we have with other people and to make them a priority in our lives. Remember that there is a great deal of value in group interactions, being around loved ones, and even getting regular hugs from others in order to release those feel-good hormones in the brain. These communities have integrated these practices as part of their daily health rituals. Connection matters. And now we have the data to prove it. Communities that value connection live longer. Belonging. In one research study, all but 5 of the 263 centenarians who were interviewed belonged to some faith-based community. Denomination didn't seem to matter as much. In other words, it didn't matter if they were Buddhist, Christian, Confucian, Taoist, Muslim, Baha'i, or any other particular faith. The research simply revealed that attending some kind of faith-based service or community interaction 4 times per month will add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy. Number 3, move naturally. The world's longest-lived people don't pump iron, run marathons, or join gyms. Instead, they live in environments that constantly nudge them into moving without thinking about it. They grow gardens and don't have too many mechanical conveniences for house and yard work. Number 4, purpose. The Okinawans call it ikigai, and the Nikkōians call it plan de vida. For both cultures, it translates to why I wake up in the morning. Knowing your sense of purpose is worth up to 7 years of life expectancy. Living with purpose is more about your ability to engage with that sense of genuine inspiration, rather than our ability to make important life choices based on someone else's values. In Blue Zone communities, there is a priority of living with purpose and intention. Number 5, downshift. Even people in blue zones experience stress. Stress leads to chronic inflammation associated with every major age-related disease. What the world's longest-lived people have that we don't are routines to shed that stress. Okinawans take a few moments each day to remember their ancestors. Adventists pray, Icarians take a nap, and the Sardinians do happy hour. Whatever the culture, there are daily practices in place to make sure that people are not running at full speed for too long. They understand that a daily commitment to taking a step back is one of the keys to a long and happy life. And while we're on this subject, one of the best practices that you can integrate into your daily food ritual is to take a moment to center yourself before eating. Through this program, we have made it a goal to eat only 3 meals per day. But adding a prayer before the meal, or even just taking a moment to center yourself on the intention of eating, is a profoundly useful practice. When you align your body and mind in this way, and you consciously inform your body of the purpose behind eating this particular food, then you begin to live in greater alignment with your own being. I want you to try this practice at every meal for the next 2 weeks. Before you eat, stop and center yourself. Think about your intention. I want this food to nourish and heal my body. I want this food to provide me with energy so that I can be more productive, more loving, more present and aware. When we ritualize eating by adding a prayer or intention at the beginning of the meal, we empower ourselves with a sense of direction and purpose for that meal. And this one ritualistic practice will translate to so many other areas of life as well. Number 6, the 80% rule. In some blue zone regions, like Okinawa, Japan, there is a practice of eating to only 80% fullness. These populations intuitively understand the detriment associated with being overly full at any moment in time. When we eat to the point of being completely full, the body has to do a lot of work to produce enzymes, break down all that food, and then assimilate as much of it as possible into usable nutrient reserves. Being overly full is too much work for the body. Whatever we eat in excess is stored as fat. And these are not reserves that we can tap into until we push the body into a calorie deficit. So, how can we make sure that we are not storing unwanted fat every time we eat? Well, this one practice would indicate that we should stop eating when we are 80% full and leave 20% for empty space. Hara Hachibunme is a 2,500-year-old Confucian mantra that is recited before meals in Okinawa, Japan. Roughly, in English, the Japanese phrase translates to "eat until you are 8 parts out of 10 full." This is a great example of a centered mindfulness practice that this culture uses to remind themselves of best eating practices. This is particularly useful in the culture because a lot of Okinawan diet is based on purple sweet potatoes, rice, and some other very starchy foods that expand the stomach once they begin to digest. So they really have to be mindful of not stuffing extra food into the stomach because these types of food will absolutely expand and cause a stomach ache if they do. The 20% gap between not being hungry and feeling full could be the difference between losing weight or gaining it. People in the blue zones eat small meals for their last meal of the day, and then they don't eat any more for the rest of the day. Number 7, plant slant. Maybe you've caught on by now that the main theme for this program has been eat your veggies. There is no quick fix that can make you live a long and healthy life. The real answer to becoming genuinely healthy has a lot more to do with kale than a magic pill or an Herbalife tea. In blue zones, people eat a lot of plants. In fact, beans, including fava, black, soy, and lentils, are an important part of most centenarian diets. Meat is eaten on average only 5 times per month, and even then the serving sizes are much smaller than what the average American is typically used to. How big are these serving sizes, you ask? Typically no more than 3 to 4 ounces, which is about the size of a deck of cards. Number 8, wine at 5. In some blue zones, consuming moderate amounts of alcohol is an activity that is woven into the social fabric of the culture. It is thought that in these cultures, moderate drinkers outlive non-drinkers. But let's take this opportunity to clarify this lifestyle habit. The concept of wine at 5 is really a concept centered around the ability to relax and not run at full speed like we tend to do in traditional Western cultures. Not all blue zones consume alcohol on a regular basis. For example, the culture in Loma Linda, California is built around the Seventh-day Adventist religion. As a part of this religious philosophy, individuals have agreed to a lifestyle practice of vegetarianism, no alcohol consumption, and traditionally no caffeine. Also, the rate of alcohol consumption in Okinawa, Japan is relatively lower because many Asians have a difficult time metabolizing alcohol and they experience a phenomenon called Asian flush, where their faces turn red and they end up with a headache after only one drink. So you see, this practice of having a glass of wine each day is not a universally embraced practice throughout all blue zone regions. And this is not a free pass to overuse alcohol. With that being said, as a nutritionist, I can't in good conscience recommend that you drink alcohol on a regular basis. There are many reasons for this, but one of the primary reasons for concern around the topic of alcohol is the fact that alcohol consumption interferes with REM sleep. Yes, alcohol is a sedative, meaning that it will sedate parts of the brain and relax the body into a semi-hypnotic state. Many people feel that this helps them get to sleep. But the major interference happens when the body attempts to get into deep sleep, what is known as REM sleep. This phase of sleep is absolutely vital, not only to maintain an appropriate balance of hormones in your body, but also for the sake of psychological health. When you can't get into REM sleep, you can't effectively integrate the information that your brain learned the day before. So essentially, when you drink alcohol or smoke weed, your brain generates more alpha brainwave activity, which prevents you from getting into deep sleep. And because REM sleep gets disturbed, then your brain doesn't have the opportunity to solidify those important neuronal connections, and when you consume alcohol, especially in the evening, you interfere with that natural process because you can't get into REM sleep. For that reason, I suggest that you avoid drinking alcohol on a regular basis. This is my recommendation based on my personal experience, so take that for what it is. If you do decide to drink, then try to have your drink at least 6 hours before you go to bed. This gives your liver the opportunity to metabolize the toxins and remove them so that your sleep is not as disrupted. This may mean having your glass of wine in the afternoon, perhaps around 3 to 4 p.m. instead of at dinner. Okay, so now we're going to transition away from the topic of alcohol and continue with the rest of the blue zone lifestyle habits. Number 9, right tribe. One of the biggest challenges in life is to go out into the world and to find our tribe, our people, the people with whom we click, those who understand us and accept us for who we really are. In the blue zone communities, these long-lived people have learned how beneficial it is to become a self-actualized person. There is a great sense of fulfillment that comes to people who have worked hard to become themselves. As a result, these people attract others in both their family and community who accept and embrace them for who they really are. And there you have it, folks. This is the philosophy that is embraced throughout the Blue Zone regions of the world. I thought it was important to include this in today's presentation because I wanted to illustrate the point that creating optimal health is so much bigger than just the particular foods that we eat. Of course, eating nutrient-dense organic food is absolutely essential as well, but my point was to emphasize the idea that we can, in fact, create a lifestyle for ourselves and even participate in a larger community effort to really enjoy a high-quality life that is filled with meaningful activity and fueled by a supportive social network and a healthy, balanced diet.